Metaco Talks. My name is Craig Perrin. I'm the VP of Sales at Metaco. This is Metaco Talks, the weekly discussion, topical issues, thought leadership related to digital assets and cryptocurrencies. The recordings will be on the website as usual, so please subscribe for future events, and we look forward to hearing your reviews. Today, I'm joined by Lory Kehoe, Digital Assets and Blockchain Director at Bank of New York Mellon. Lory, good morning. Happy Friday.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
How's it going?
Things are going good, despite it being absolutely miserable in May here in Dublin. I have no other words for it. I'm in fantastic form, but yeah, the weather needs to start playing a bit of ball for us over here. What about you?
Yeah, I have to say, well, I'm currently in London, and the weather is a bit grey and gloomy as well. So I share the pain. But hey ho, so hopefully we can brighten Friday morning, right, with some good conversation. Lory, just very quickly before we kick off, just a couple of quick points on your role at Bank of New York Mellon. Outline for us. That'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So look, I joined the bank back in January. I have been working in the blockchain space and digital asset space for nearly 8 years, actually. So I started out doing work in the blockchain area with Deloitte, and then helped build Deloitte's EMEA blockchain lab based out of Dublin with some great people. Did some work out in Hong Kong doing something very similar, and then joined Consensus, which is focused on the Ethereum platform. So helped build the entity in Ireland. And I was very fortunate to, I guess, get to know some of the folks in BNY Mellon over the years in my time in Deloitte and in Consensus as well. And then, yeah, very fortunate to join the bank back in January. And I'm part of a team of folks who are in the digital assets unit, who are really helping the bank, I guess, execute on the digital asset initiatives in all parts of the business. So it's a case where, I'm not alone. There are many of me working away and developing products, listening to clients, and helping to bring our solutions to life.
Great. I mean, Bank of New York Mellon, I have spent many years in my career working on the opposite side of the table to Bank of New York Mellon, but I know the organization very well as a very formidable global custodian. So how does Bank of New York Mellon now see the digital asset space evolving? Clearly a leading global custodian in the traditional asset space, but how is that evolving how's the view at Bank of New York Mellon evolving in the digital asset space?
Yeah, look, I think the way we look at it is very much as evolutionary rather than revolutionary. And I think this goes back to kind of what the bank has been doing for many years. And this is, I'm still learning about the bank's history and what's gone on for over, 230 years. The bank's been, I guess, innovating, creating new products and services. But ultimately, and Craig, much like your role and your roles in the past, it's about listening to clients. It's about understanding their needs. It's about developing solutions. So, you know what, I guess we see digital assets as an emerging asset class, but for us, I guess we're proud to be part of the digitization of this area in the same way you guys are. And that's, for us, I think, really exciting, what our clients are excited about. And personally, I guess, yeah, that's the fun part of my job.
So yeah, I mean, you mentioned clients, right? And obviously, you guys will look after some of the biggest asset managers, insurance companies, pension funds globally. How is the underlying demand, and what are clients asking for?
Yeah, a great question. I think, what are we seeing here? We are seeing, I was actually chatting to some clients yesterday around this, and I think I probably put it into, 3 categories. They're looking to understand what's going on. That's probably number one. So they're getting in touch with us. So, after our announcement that we said in February that we're providing, digital asset custody, they're looking to understand what that means. What does that look like? they're understanding to learn more in general about digital assets. And then the final layer is they're looking to partner. So, you know, we're all on this journey together. And I think, you know, the privileged role that I have and that the bank has is that our clients are coming to us looking for us to, I guess, be a trusted advisor in relation to this technology, right? It's different to what's there today. So our job is to, I guess, try and help them navigate, right? What's going on? How does it work? When are services available? And what are the other considerations? So the demand that's there really is, it's been growing and building for, I guess, for several years. I think it's, what I would say is, you know, a few years ago, one or two clients coming out in relation to looking for, I guess, custody services or other services in relation to digital assets is interesting. But as that drumbeat grows consistently over weeks and months, then it becomes, you know, it becomes an imperative for us.
And so I think, you know, a lot of the organizations, banks of a tier one size are very much led by client demand. So I understand very much your points that you sort of make around what clients are looking for. Is that the business, that's what's driven the business case? I mean, the business case at Bank of New York Mellon to move into digital assets, clearly there has to be an underlying client demand. There has to be a market space that the management team believe in. But is that what's built the business case, or is there other key components?
No, look, 100%. I think that's the major driver here. So it's not a case where, you know, I've come into the bank, you know, kind of jumping up and down saying this is important. That would be interesting, but what we are seeing is, you know, right across all lines of business within the bank, and from all our different, I guess, client types, we are seeing interest in relation to digital assets. And you know what, like any product company, like any service company, like any startup out there as well, you know, what's the core to your business? The core to your business is to, right, understand what products or services you have today, what are your customers looking for, and then how do you carefully listen to them, right? And this is something that I think it's an underestimated, underused skill, but carefully listen to them as to what they want, and then start documenting what that is, and then start developing or co-developing solutions so that you have products and services that meet their needs. So for me, I think the older I get, the more important it is for me to shut up, listen, and I think I've also, I guess, surrounded myself, you know, with the folks in BNY Mellon, the team that I'm in. I think there's a team of great listeners, and I'm kind of picking up their kind of tricks of the trade as to how what questions they're asking, so we can get to the kind of the real detail as to, you know, what are the things that are really important to build. And then that's what we're listening to, that's what we're building, and that's hopefully the products that we're going to create.
You mentioned the businesses or the business division that you're part of. You know, I spend majority of my time talking to clients about the creation of capability to support client demand. But and a lot of that client demand, is that coming within Bank of New York Mellon from one particular business area? So, for example, is it the custody, the sub-custody, the direct custody business, which is so large at Bank of New York Mellon, that's looking to facilitate that product development?
Yeah, look, I think after our announcement, it was, you know, in the front cover of the Wall Street Journal, America's oldest bank is getting into digital assets. And I think the focus then initially was on custody, but really what we're doing is we're building a multi-asset platform to meet the needs of our clients across all lines of business. So custody is a foundational component. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And the custody team is doing fantastic work to build that solution and be the first part of it. But whether it's treasury services, whether it's issuer services, whether it's markets, whether it's Pershing within the bank, it is across all areas. So the way we're kind of organizing is that there'll be, I guess, folks like me dedicated to the different lines of business. to work with that line of business to help develop products and services for that line of business to meet their specific customer needs. So that's kind of how we're doing what we're doing, I guess. And then in terms of, I guess, the different client types. So whether it's asset managers or unsurprisingly, they're very interested in the area. We're seeing asset owners. So a lot of interest from those folks as well. From corporates, we're seeing a huge amount of interest as well. And then also from digital native or crypto native companies. So it is, let me tell you, I'm busy. I'll definitely say that. I know you're busy as well, right? I think everybody in the world is busy now, and we're on Zoom and Teams and Google Hangouts and all these kind of different conference calls all day. But I'm definitely I'm meeting folks in Australia or Southeast Asia early in the morning here, Dublin time, and then I'm wrapping up with calls with folks in California later in the day. And that is, I guess that's, for me, exciting, interesting, and most of all, I guess it's an opportunity to learn what our clients want to do, and then, get into building those solutions.
I mean, it is exciting, right? You're involved in the creation of a new business line of a product expansion, and I guess a name like Bank of New York Mellon is trusted by many, right? And that's a key factor in terms of clients wanting to understand what you guys are doing. You've also been very visible in the market in terms of the announcements that have come out around steps that you're taking in that space. And that in itself is obviously driving interest. But clearly launching a product that, like crypto custody capability and the associated connected elements of that inside a bank like Bank of New York Mellon has to become, I've worked in banks, that they can be phenomenal vehicles to create products. Innovation within banks is something which is a key component these days. But it still has to be a complex project to launch. How is that? How are you navigating the various business lines to bring agreement to deliver?
Yeah, I think very fair point, and we're a big business, and there are lots of moving parts to the different lines of business and to everything that we do. For me, honestly, and a big reason as to, I guess, why I took the role in the first place is, and the older I get on this point as well, and I'm sure you feel the same, it's kind of funny, just the importance of leadership, right? So I think working with people who have executed change programs and product development initiatives in the past of this scale and nature is absolutely critical. So I, fortunate to work with my boss, who's Mike Dempsey, who is, he's been in the industry for a long time now, and has executed a number of projects. So for me, it's folks like Mike, it's Caroline Butler on the custody side, who have, I guess, done these things in the past and know how to get it done and know how to get organized. So I think it's, it's that traditional mix of having leaders who have vision, but also the ability to execute. And also, I think it's getting things organized, right? And hopefully I've got a, through the, the good folks at Accenture and Deloitte who, where I guess, cut my teeth and learned a lot from in terms of projects. It's helping to shape things, helping organize so that we can move forward. Like we're, I think as a bank, we move on a very sure-footed basis, as you know, and we need to do things in a very considered and measured way. So it's absolutely essential that, I guess, we have, like an orchestra, we've got unbelievable conductors who know what the plays are, know how to get stuff done, and then for the rest of the business to row in behind. And I think that's what we've got. So it's, I think, there's a great study done. There was a Harvard Business Review article about this, about the importance of leadership. And it said the variability of performance of a team can be up to 50% based on leadership. And I read that article recently, and I was just blown away by it. And it's coming from a psychologist based on research and studies. And I think that, the older I get, the more importance I place on leadership, like working for people that you want to work for. That helps.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I mean, I think your leadership is without a doubt critical when you move into a new area. There has to be confidence at all levels to deliver that product, particularly in an area which is somewhat groundbreaking for mainstream global custodians to drive into, right? I mean, when you joined, you come from a background away from sort of the banking circle. Was there a significant learning curve for many of the leaders inside your organization to really understand the business case, or was there a lot of support early on?
To be honest, support, and even more so than I anticipated, to be really frank. When I came to the bank, we've been having discussions, and then you only, when you're in the door properly, do you fully learn, right, what's going on, what the strategy is, and how we're organized to execute against it, and the different initiatives that were in flight. And to be honest, the support that's there from the top, so from Todd Gimmins, from Robin, is absolutely 100% evident, and there's no doubt about that. And I think what you're seeing here is, I guess, Roman Regelman, coming from a consulting background, absolutely focused on digitization, and I think that is permeating through the bank. So there's the desire to digitize. There's an opportunity to kind of create innovative digital products, and I think you have support from Roman, and then Mike has put a team together to help execute that, and I'm part of that team. But genuinely, I guess, did I have hesitations? Like any job, when you move into a new role, it's always interesting to see and learn what's it going to be like, as opposed to what you think. And if anything, there's more support than I thought there would be. There's more activities taking place in relation to digital assets than I thought there was, and there's a bigger amount of people working on these initiatives. So genuinely, and I'm not kind of giving you a party line. It is, I think that's exceeded my expectations, to be frank.
It's interesting the way, listening to you, the level of innovation as a culture now within inside Bank of New York Mellon. It feels like it's at a real core level, right? So are you impressed coming from the outside, joining in now, that the level of innovation and focus on developing in that space within inside a bank that traditionally, has been very focused on the traditional asset space, to now have that level of innovation as a culture across the organization feels pretty strong.
It does. And I think this goes back to I guess, what the bank's probably what the bank has been doing for a while, and quietly so, is building up a bench of talent. So I'm one small part of a team of people who've come from different technology companies, who've come from consulting backgrounds, who I'm certainly learning a bunch from. Right, I think back to what I know now versus where I was 4 months ago, based on the people that I'm I guess surrounded by. It is I think there's a lot of very knowledgeable people, and that's what's driving things forward. I think there's an opportunity with digital assets in the same way there was when, I guess, as the bank has evolved over time, to go from bonds to equities, real estate. There's been these big moments in terms of product development, product services, and digital assets we see as being another form of asset class. So there's an opportunity here to think about, well, what are the products that we can develop around this new asset class? And for me, that's what's getting the creative juices flowing.
Yeah. So I mean, I think to that point, do you view the digital asset class as an add-on now to run alongside the traditional space? There's been a number of organizations theoretically ring fencing the vehicle, potentially slightly away from maybe the parent in some shape or form. But do you expect your launch to come very much alongside the traditional business?
It's definitely the latter. We see it as being an extension of our existing services. It's core to what we do as part of our kind of, our digital journey. Digital is a massive component of everything that we do. We're looking where we can to automate, in everything that we do. And there's a lot of work done and, still work to do, but, definitely there's a capability in the team now where we have a dedicated team of artificial intelligence and data scientists, a team of PhD folks who certainly make me feel like I need to do a lot more on that front. But that's just an indicator of kind of the focus that the bank has on digitization, and digital assets is another, part of that focus. And I think that does go back to, looking at why Roman's being brought in, and it is to digitize the bank. So looking at automating, but then looking at also, other digital or digital related opportunities. So it's that, cost saving, but also revenue generation focus, which I think is an interesting narrative.
So as you get to launch, in terms of the hurdles that you've got to cross between now and product being live and available for clients, how's the regulatory framework impacting? How is that sort of creating either challenges or directing the next steps?
Yeah, look, I think what I'd say on this one is that as the regulatory environment continues to evolve around the world, like our job is to ensure that our products and service meet any and all requirements associated to those. And that's the focus. We have a team of, folks who know far more about regulation than I do, who are regulatory experts. And they're helping us understand, what the requirements are, and then ensuring that we meet all those specific requirements in every jurisdiction and geography that we operate. So I think, what I close out on that one is, it continues to evolve, but we're laser focused on it.
I mean, one of the key components in the traditional space, particularly for a global custodian, there is an element of obviously global geographic coverage, assets held in 100 plus markets, giving your clients huge global access. And obviously under that comes that sort of sub-custody framework and the connection with sub-custodians into each of the markets. How do you see the concept in the digital asset space of the concept of either sub-custodians or partners, platforms, relationships outside of Bank of New York Mellon that you will then partner with or work with to deliver your underlying product to your client base?
Yeah, and this, I think this is actually a really interesting question, and interesting for me on many different areas. Ecosystems is a big thing I'm interested in outside of BNY Mellon and work that I do with Trinity College Dublin. But I think around partnerships and ecosystems, this is something that I didn't realize until I came into the bank, that we have a dedicated partnerships team, right, who look at making strategic investments, but also evaluate, the broader ecosystem as to who's out there that we should be working with. And this was, I'm actually still blown away by the team. So it's led by a guy called Noam Tash. And effectively what they do all day, every day, is they're meeting with companies. They're scanning their horizon across different lines of business, digital assets being one area, to understand who's out there, what are they doing. They set up meetings and they, listen endlessly to what these, companies are doing. And then does it make sense for us to be using these? And then they will link in with the different parts of the business to say, look, we've come across this company in relation to transaction monitoring, it could be, right? And we think this would fit neatly with what we do already. Would you be interested in having a chat? And then we have a chat and we see if actually, there is a gap and we think there's an opportunity to use that service, and then how do we integrate? So for me, that is an area that I've been genuinely massively impressed by as to the proactive nature that there's people dedicated to understanding what is going on in the broader space. So it's not always the case where, you know, people are contacting you through LinkedIn. You're saying, look, listen to my product, blah, 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 blah. We have a proactive team dedicated to doing that.
Lory, we're coming up on time, just literally a couple of minutes. There's been a lot in the digital asset space. There's been a lot around ESG in the banking space. How can digital assets be compatible from an ESG perspective? It's an interesting topic, one which will continue to be debated. But any thoughts from you would be interesting.
Yeah, and I think this is, you know, another rapidly evolving area, incredibly interesting. And what I would say is that first things first, when it comes to digital assets and ESG, and I guess mining specifically, the key thing here is to understand what power source is being used to empower the miners. That's the first thing. Is it renewable energy, right? And how can we work collectively in this area to figure out that and push the agenda that renewables have to be the source of the energy for mining? So, you know, smoky coal, that's not good enough. So we need to figure out collectively as to how we make that just the go-to standard. And I think that's then becoming part of the solution. Another factor here, which I'm sure you guys agree on this as well, is the move from proof of work to proof of stake. So, you know, a lot more energy efficient consensus mechanisms, and that being a prime example. And I think that's a second and very important factor. And the third point that I'd say is, look, I think, you know, through the partnerships team that I just mentioned there, we are actively looking for, I guess, entities out there that are doing interesting work to help, you know, solve this problem. And how can BNY Mellon be part of that solution? So there's some companies out there that are looking at some really interesting ways of redistributing the heated, actually what's happening is there's air basically flowing over the Bitcoin miners. And, you know, is there a way to redistribute that hot air for it to be used for other purposes? So a potentially beneficial byproduct from the mining. So I think, look, evolving area, but we are really active and trying to figure out how do we become part of the solution. That's probably the real focus.
I mean, it's a topic which is continually going to be debated, and one which I think it's important that banks like yours are at the forefront of those discussions. And I think collectively the conversation will continue. Lory, I've really appreciated the conversation this morning. Any final thoughts in terms of your focus for the next few months?
No, I think it's just keep the head down, keep doing what we're doing, right? I think that's probably the main thing. You know, we're busy on a few fronts. So it's to focus on the build for our custody solution. And also, yeah, hopefully enjoy a bit of downtime over the summer as the weather gets a bit better and the you know, vaccinations increase and the world opens up a little bit. And yeah, a final thought for me is, yeah, wishing Ipswich Town all the best.
Indeed, we all do. Lory, listen, appreciate, been fantastic to get you on. Grateful for you taking the time. Thanks very much. The next Metaco Talks is on the 28th of May. We have Kaylin Nikolov, Head of Digital Currency at SICPA, joining us then. So until then, thanks very much for joining.